It's difficult to know where to start with this, really. But I suppose the best way of putting it is that I feel like I'm attending a wake before the deceased is actually dead. I am, of course, referring to the Conservative Party. I'm Granniopteryx. I'm on YouTube, Rumble, BitChute and Minds. So what happened was last night I didn't sleep. Sometimes you think you haven't slept and you actually have. You dozed off, you just didn't realise it. But I know I didn't sleep because after not being able to sleep for a while, I switched on an audio book and I listened to it. I didn't miss a line. I think I might have got maybe half an hour's sleep last night, and I wasn't entirely sure why until I saw this article in the Telegraph this morning, and the article is as follows: Has Rishi Sunak destroyed the Conservatives forever? Our writers give their verdicts. And then what they've done is they've put two different writers to write their take on the situation. So they are also administering extreme unction to a patient who is not already dead. The first one is Tom Harris, and he starts with, we've been here more than once. The past is no guarantee of the future, but it would be foolish to ignore the evidence that defeated political parties, even those that are heading for an historic wipeout, according to all the polls, tend to recover. Well, Tom Harris, the Liberal Party didn't, did it? It ran into a historic wipeout in, the 20s? And now it considered itself lucky if it manages 5 seats. No, it is possible for a party to completely disappear, to become irrelevant. It's like those guys singing in the life raft to try and keep their spirits up. First of all, he says governments need an opposition and that isn't going to come from Reform or the Liberal Democrats, which is nonsense. Well, it won't come from the Liberal Democrats, but the Reform are making a pretty good fist of it, aren't they? And then he says our electoral system, despised as it is by reformers, isn't going anywhere. Well, not at the moment, but I'd like to know what crystal ball you have in your possession, Mr. Harris, because nobody can tell what will happen with our electoral system when, for instance, the Labour Party get hold of it and they try and give the vote to 16-year-olds, and then there's a whole lot of other things that will come in around it. The third factor is leadership. If, as is likely, Keir Starmer's government runs into difficulties sooner rather than later, and those difficulties are serious, the nation will start to consider the alternative. And that's true. People will be thinking of the alternative almost as soon as Starmer is in power, because most of his team are idiots and ideologues. And if they're not idiots, they're ideologues, and some of them may be ideologues and idiots. And it's going to be like a cats in a sack there after a while. So yeah, they're going to be in trouble. But nobody wants Labour now. The reason Labour is ahead is simply because the Conservatives have made such a terrible mess of things. We can't see that they're fit for government. Now, after that, there's Sherelle Jacobs, and she's a bit more pessimistic. Well, a bit more, right. When it comes to the question of who's responsible for wrecking the Conservative Party, there are a few contenders. It's often overlooked that Cameron put not just the Tories, but Britain itself on the path to destruction when he flippantly threw away this country's last decent chance to rescue itself from economic decline. right, so she's going into the economics of it. No, you can blame Cameron and Theresa May for not listening to the people, because the people wanted Brexit. And as soon as Cameron was defeated on the Brexit thing, he just walked out, you know, in a pet. Actually, he's the only one who's done any good out of this. He is now Lord Cameron and he's in the House of Lords. Whatever happens to the Conservatives, he is one lucky stinker, isn't he? So there's you can go back to Cameron and Theresa May, but basically that wasn't an irredeemable situation. What was irredeemable was that the grassroots were betrayed. The grassroots didn't exactly want Liz Truss, but Liz Truss and Rishi Sunak were the only two they were offered. And when they chose Liz Truss, because they really didn't want Rishi Sunak, Michael Gove and Jeremy Hunt managed to get her dislodged. Now, Liz Truss was going for radical. And everyone said that was a disaster. No, it wasn't. It was probably precipitous and it would have led to a rocky time, but then it would have righted itself if the Conservative Party, the top people in the Conservative Party had got behind her and done what they could to smooth things out. But no, they wanted Rishi Sunak, their bureaucrat. And so they dislodged her. And Kwasi Kwarteng was a really imaginative person. He could have really got things going here. We could have been on a forward momentum right now. But no, Jeremy Hunt and Michael Gove, they wanted the sort of person they can understand. Not a risk taker, just an administrator. And the others stood by and let it happen. So I'm not just blaming them, but I see them as the prime movers. Of course, I wasn't there in the smoke-filled rooms, so or the latte sloshing rooms, whatever. But this is the way I see it. So going back to Theresa May and David Cameron, no, all of that was redeemable. And those guys destroyed the Conservative Party. And Sunak, I mean, he's a backstabber. That's something else. He was dislodging Boris Johnson months before. He was already setting up his webpage and all the rest of it. And the grassroots didn't like that. So now, when the Conservatives wanted party backing, they discovered there was nothing there. There must be thousands of Conservative Party members who have actually left the party or allowed their membership to lapse, or if they're still members, simply refuse to go out delivering literature and knocking on doors. There must be thousands of those. So if you want to blame someone, yeah, I'd blame Gove and Hunt. And then Sunak. Sunak's single catastrophic miscalculation that he could bounce the country into an election which has finally sent the Tories into a death spiral. Well, yeah, but that's because he's not a politician, really, Sunak. He's an administrator. He just didn't have the feel for it. Not for the Conservatives. And, you know, you learn from history. Tony Blair thought he could do without his grassroots people as well. And that went well, didn't it? Now momentum is towards the Tory party's destruction. There's a significant possibility that they will not win enough seats to form the main opposition. There is, absolutely. And you know what? They don't deserve it. No, all the people in the grassroots, they have been betrayed. They deserve better. But the party itself, the top, they deserve everything they're going to get. And then Jacob says, this centuries-old party will either swallow reform or be swallowed by it, and in any case never be the same again. Well, it won't be the same as it is now, because as it is now, it's a party that's totally divorced from its grassroots in most cases. And so it shouldn't be the same ever again. And maybe there will be ultimately a sort of mix of reform and conservative. They'll call it the Reformed Conservative Party, something like that. Whoa, good grief, what a horrible thing. But you never know. Like New Labour, I thought that sounded like washing powder. Right, well, that's it. Yeah, so here I am, like somebody who has an old friend dying in hospital, just waiting for that phone call from the relative to tell me, you know, that's it. It's all over. And yeah, that's why I'm having trouble sleeping, I suppose. I hope I get some sleep tonight, or Thursday I'm going to be talking to you, holding my eyelids open at the same time. Okay, till next time. You can help my channel by clicking like, by subscribing, by clicking the notification bell, and by sharing if you're so inclined. Links to my other channels are in the description, also links to donation sites, but really the best way you can help me is simply by clicking like. Thank you.